Welcome back to We Are the Ioway, a citizen journalist podcast about the Báxoje people, also known as the Ioway, and specifically the citizens of the Iowa tribe of Kansas and Nebraska. I'm your host, Olivia Brien, tribal citizen, communications specialist, and citizen journalist. The first several episodes of We Are the Ioway feature interviews with candidates running for positions on the Iowa tribe of Kansas and Nebraska's Executive Committee, or EC. As a member of the General Council myself, I'm hosting these conversations to help inform and engage voters. The Iowa Tribe's 2025 election will take place this Saturday, October 18, from 8:30 a.m. till 1:30 p.m. This election marks a significant transition in our tribe's leadership. Our current vice chairman, Brandon Roberts, has resigned in order to run for chairman. Listen now to episode 1 to hear from Misty Slater, who is also running for chairman. To fill the role of vice chairman, there's a special election for the position. Whomever is voted in as vice chairman will serve a shortened term of 2 years to complete the election term abandoned by vice chairman Brandon Roberts. This election for vice chairman is a contest between tribal members Britni Beck and James Keller. Both candidates were offered the opportunity to be interviewed on this podcast. However, James Keller did not participate in an interview. Now, a quick note before we begin. Unfortunately, the audio cuts out a few times during this interview. Whenever this happens, I'll be repeating the missing parts so you won't miss a word. Thank you so much for understanding. In today's episode, we'll be speaking with Vice Chairman Hopeful Britni Beck. Britni currently works for our tribal enterprise, Gray Snow Management Solutions, and previously worked for the Iowa tribe of Kansas and Nebraska. Meet Vice Chairman candidate Britni Beck.
Hello, relatives, citizens, family, and friends. My name is Britni Beck. I'm honored to be here as a candidate for vice chair of the Iowa tribe of Kansas, Nebraska. My career has been dedicated to building strong tribal programs, economic development, and representing Native agriculture and tribal interests across the globe. But most importantly, I'm here as a daughter, a mother, and a community member who believes our people deserve fairness, accountability, and opportunity. I want to help strengthen our sovereignty, grow our economy, and ensure that our future generations can thrive.
Understanding of governance. Our vice chairman must be prepared to assume the chairman's duties at any time. Describe, in your words, the branches of the Ioway government and their roles in governing our tribal nation.
Our government consists of two branches, namely the General Council, anyone over the age of 18 who's a citizen, and the Executive Committee, the 5 elected leaders that the community votes in to act with their best interests in mind. Our current constitution leaves much to be desired, and I'll tell you why. Like many tribal nations, our structure comes from a constitution created during the Indian Reorganization Act era. These IRA constitutions were often very basic, and they gave tribes a framework to operate under, but in many cases, they limited the expression of traditional governments and put us in a mold that was designed by federal policy and not necessarily by our own ways. One benefit of this structure is that it created clear branches with some checks and balances for accountability, but the downside is that it also lacks some checks and balances and doesn't always reflect the full depth of our culture or give us the flexibility we might want today. You might notice that we don't have a formal judicial branch, only a judicial system, and an underdeveloped and untapped one. Why it's so important for from within this framework, but to also educate our citizens, build teamwork, and make sure our systems reflect both the letter of our Constitution and the spirit of our sovereignty.
Unfortunately, I had a little bit of an internet issue, so her last statement there was, "You might notice that we don't have a formal judicial branch, only a judicial system, and an underdeveloped and untapped one at that." That's why it's so important for leadership to operate not only from within this framework, but to also educate our citizens, build teamwork, and make sure our systems reflect both the letter of our Constitution and the spirit of our sovereignty. Government relations. Tribal governments have a government-to-government relationship with other governments, including tribal, local, and state governments, as well as the federal government. The General Council has expressed that our tribal leaders should prioritize engaging with local, state, and federal officials, as well as other tribal nations. The vice chairman often serves as a spokesperson for our tribe. What is your experience engaging with various governments?
I've directly represented our tribe and Native agriculture in multiple high-level venues through USDA trade missions and policy forums. These roles required negotiation and advocacy to secure access to markets for Native producers and involved working directly with U.S. ambassadors, diplomats, and federal officials. I also regularly interface with state and national government departments, as well as many other tribal governments, to ensure that our voices are represented in decision-making. In addition to that, I currently serve as an appointee on the USDA NRCS Regional Tribal Conservation Advisory Council, where I am part of a team that advises national policy leaders on issues affecting all tribes, strengthening the government-to-government relationship on natural resources and
That is, natural resources and conservation. What overarching messages or goals do you plan to bring to other governments?
when I sit down with other governments, one of the most important things I want to share is who we are as the Iowa tribe and as Ioway people. That's our history, our strengths, and our vision for the future. A big part of this is education because too often people don't really know us. And when they don't really know us, our voices can often get overlooked. I also believe that we move forward best when we work together. So this means building partnerships, practicing teamwork, and setting aside some of the past ugliness that really doesn't serve any of us. And I'm not suggesting forget, rather move forward in a good and productive way that serves us. My goal is to make sure our tribe always has a seat at the table, ensure that our voice is heard and respected, and to build relationships that honor our sovereignty. These things will help to shape opportunities and open doors for our people now and for the generations to come.
Executive Committee Expectations and Accountability. In August, the General Council voted on a new law making all Executive Committee positions full-time at a minimum. Members of the Executive Committee will earn wages as set by the General Council, but cannot feasibly hold a second full-time position and fulfill the duties of office. What is your plan regarding your employment if elected?
If elected, I will fully dedicate myself to the vice chair role. I'm prepared to step away from my full-time employment so I can focus completely on serving our nation.
Imagine a colleague decides not to follow this tribal law. How will you ensure the law is enforced?
Leadership starts with accountability. If a colleague does not follow tribal law, I would address it directly within the executive committee first, and then, if necessary, support formal action to ensure compliance. Our laws are made by the people and for the people, and it is the duty of the elected representatives, AKA our EC, to uphold them without exception.
Leadership philosophy. How will you complement the chairman's leadership? What role do you see yourself playing in decision-making and general leadership?
My role as vice chair would be to provide balance, partnership, and accountability. I believe in strong collaboration, asking hard questions, having hard conversations, offering solutions, and ensuring decisions are transparent and grounded in the will of our citizens. I bring skills in negotiation, enterprise development, and financial management, which would complement any chairman's leadership. I see myself as both a steady hand in governance and a bridge builder with outside governments and partners. My goal is to strengthen the chairman's leadership by making sure our council is informed, unified, and focused on the long-term success of our nation.
Why are you running for the executive committee?
When I made the decision to run, it wasn't about ambition, although I am an ambitious individual. It was about responsibility. I recognize a lack and a deep need for change in how our tribal government serves its people. I've lived through and witnessed the harm that comes when leadership is disorganized, when accountability is absent, and when complacency takes root. Our community deserves better, and our children certainly do. I'm running because I believe in restoring integrity, accountability, and respect to this council. Leadership should not be about personal gain. It must be about service. We need leaders who are willing to make educated, confident decisions, who aren't afraid of holding one another accountable, and who are committed to building solutions together instead of placing blame. We need leaders who will uphold citizen rights and protect them, not attempt to harm them or make them disappear. We need to invest in our employees, strengthen our financial foundation, and create a culture where every tribal member feels valued and heard. I want to be clear that I'm not running out of revenge for the injustices that I've experienced. I see those hardships as a part of a larger truth that sometimes broken systems must expose themselves before they can be changed. I was one of many who felt the weight of those failures, but I choose to rise from that experience with purpose, not bitterness. I'm stepping up because I believe our tribe is ready for a new chapter, one built in unity, responsibility, and forward vision. This isn't just about fixing what's broken. It's about creating something stronger, more sustainable, and more worthy of the generations to come.
Ioway Farms. Our ancestors were farmers and hunters. Before contact and before our ancestors attended boarding schools, we grew food in ways that were in harmony with Hina Maya, our Mother Earth. I've heard a rumor. Some candidates running for the EC want Ioway Farms, which utilizes indigenous regenerative farming practices, to switch back to conventional farming practices. As a member of the General Council, this concerns me. We were about to lose the farm when we last used conventional farming practices, not to mention the effects on our waterways, drinking water, and our many plant and animal relatives. The transition to regenerative farming takes time, and many are frustrated because they aren't seeing results. How do you respond, and what would you like to see as the future for Ioway Farms?
I understand the frustration some feel, and in fact, I'm frustrated too. But I also know firsthand that Regen Ag is not an overnight process. It takes time, care, and consistency. Something else that takes time, care, and consistency, though, is educating the ag community on different ways of thinking and the effects that many of these ag practices that have been around for generations now, what they may be doing to our natural resources, namely soil health and water quality. I honestly think that in the big picture, we need to quit dividing our farmers into good and bad and address them together as the group of land stewards that they are, who face many of the same challenges and care about what they do. We all have common we all have certain things in common: high nitrates, poor water quality, erosion, community health, and our bottom lines. These are all things that affect our families. Addressing these issues together will get us further than fighting about exactly how we get there. That said, I am a big believer in regenerative ag, and I respect the effort that's been put into trying to implement practices rooted in indigenous wisdom here. I do think the ship needs tightened significantly by implementing a common and understood vision, education on all fronts from employees to the community of farmers and ranchers, and execution. Special attention should be given to our departments to either get them up to speed so that where they have the knowledge and skill to know how to get where they're going, or by tapping into people who have those skill sets. We can make the farming and ranching make economic sense. And a good place to start is getting our financials in order to help identify what is not working.
Community-sourced questions. The following questions were drawn from comments and suggestions on Facebook and direct conversations with tribal members. This final selection represents key issues raised by our community. Culture. Without our language and our culture, we cease to exist as Ioway people. What are your plans to support cultural initiatives?
Language and culture should be embedded in everything that we do. And if elected, or even not being elected, I truly support providing support both financially and any other formal resources for the culture committee, um, supporting a language circle and teaming up with the Southern Ioways, Oto Missourias, and any other relevant speaking groups. And listening to the citizens of this community to see where they might see it better.
Sovereignty. What does sovereignty mean to you?
Sovereignty means being in control of our own destiny. It means not being reliant on federal dollars, but being self-reliant or being able to take care of ourselves. That's feeding our people. That's controlling our own healthcare. That's not being influenced by these outside big pharma, big ag, big politics. it's truly being community together and being able to take care of one another and our natural resources and this really beautiful piece of sovereign land that we've been blessed enough to be able to keep, and many others can't. So sovereignty is our own 2 feet without having to crutch the support of someone else.
That is, to take care of this really beautiful piece of sovereign land that we've been blessed enough to be able to keep, and many others can't say the same thing. So, sovereignty is being able to stand on our own 2 feet without having to crutch the support of someone else. Leadership. Mistakes, missteps, and problems in general are unavoidable. Those in leadership roles have to be able to navigate appropriately. If something goes wrong, how would you lead the tribe through that moment?
Mistakes, missteps, and problems are certainly unavoidable. But leadership is about accountability. And it's not only about holding others accountable, it's about holding yourself accountable. Sometimes we have to be able to grit our teeth and admit when we've made a mistake or done something wrong. And we have to be willing to admit that and be honest and transparent about those mistakes or missteps so that we can find the best answers and solutions to fix the problem. It's imperative for leadership to be able to be honest with the general council, the rest of the tribe. And oftentimes the solutions may be held with that part of the government, with the general council. So I think it's important to be able to admit when things go wrong and then be able to not let ego get in the way of asking for help when obviously there wasn't the knowledge there in the first place or the resources there to accomplish a task correctly. And then making a plan to get it done and then just staying on task and keeping people up to date. I think people just appreciate the truth and they just want to know what's going on.
Technology. The General Council has recently passed various laws regarding executive committee transparency. How do you see us utilizing technology to meet General Council expectations regarding meetings? How do you see us using technology in the future to report on the standings of our various business ventures?
With regard to utilizing technology for general council meetings, we should be utilizing that in a few different formats. We should be able to provide agendas in a timely manner, meeting minutes in a timely manner. And then we also, this day and age, have the ability to video stream. And so we could encourage participation from people that don't live in the service area or that it's difficult to travel here quarterly to attend a meeting. We have all this really great technology. Let's use that. We could have some sort of a vetting process to make sure that we don't just have Joe and Bob from, some willy-nilly place down the road dialing in, but we could have extra participation and encourage that in that way. With regard to executive committee meetings, we could live stream those. And we could also hold those at a different time of the day so that people could attend. Maybe it's in an evening, maybe it's Wednesday evenings for 3 hours. And if these things are planned out and we're just taking care of real tribal business and not putting out fires, people could view the business that's going on at the tribe and feel more connected and be more involved and directly participate. So that would be kind of a timing and a technology issue. As far as reporting, I think that we should be showing all reporting in the members area. As of late, some of that stuff has been taken down. We have a right to know as citizens. We have a right to see these documents and hold our elected leaders accountable. And I think that's very important to be able to utilize that tool.
And now, a few closing words from Vice Chairman candidate Britni Beck.
In closing, I want to say leadership is truly about service. It's about ensuring our resources are managed wisely, our government is accurate, and our people are cared for. I bring proven experience in governance, finance, and program building. But more importantly, I bring a commitment to fairness, transparency, and results. Together, we can build a stronger, more sovereign nation where every citizen has opportunity and every voice is respected. I humbly ask for your support as your next vice chair on October 18th. Wari Grohiki.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Britni.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for joining me for the second episode of We Are the Ioway, and the second episode in the special election series featuring conversations with candidates for the Iowa Tribe of Kansas and Nebraska's Executive Committee. Now, don't forget, tribal elections will take place on Saturday, October 18 from 8:30 a.m. until 1:30 p.m. These will be held at the George Ogden Building on our reservation. Torigun, or until next time, and thank you so much for listening to We Are the Ioway.